Welcome pilots, my name is Hybrid V and I'm here in 4.0. Now specifically this is actually a recording of me playing 4.0. And it's been in the PTU for quite some time. It was in Evocati for quite a while, and now, of course it's been in Wave 1, but it's been in Wave 1 for a long time, and one of the most common questions I get is, Hybrid, when do you think that we're going to actually get 4.0? Now, we know that CIG wants to get it out before the end of the year. That means they have only a few weeks left even before winter break starts for the holidays. So they don't have much time, and yet we're still in Wave 1. So what is the holdup? Well, the holdup really is the stability of the game. That's generally the big issue we got going on here. And to illustrate that, I am going to showcase here me doing a cargo run. And the reason for that is I find that doing the very simplistic gameplay loop of doing cargo runs is an excellent way of identifying the health of a patch. Being an Evocati tester, we test a whole slew of things, but one way I personally like to test the stability of the game while it's in a PTU phase is by just doing a very simple cargo trade. In this case, I'm going to be going from the Stanton system all the way to Pyro, sell my cargo, buy new cargo, return back to Stanton, and sell the cargo and see where the pain points are along the way. What's interesting is in 4.0, stability has been all over the board. Some patches it's very stable and it feels very nice, and other patches it is just absolutely unplayable. In Evocati, one of the biggest issues we had is we just simply couldn't use the jump gates. And if you've watched any of the Evocati playtests, because we did not have an NDA for 4.0, they were very, very short-lived playtests for many people because of the fact that the jump gates would simply just break. On top of that, you had a lot of server issues like server errors, which are very common. Now, those have gone down over time as CIG has slowly figured out a lot of the problems. However, it hasn't been fully addressed. Like currently right now, in this patch that we've been playing over this weekend, one of the bigger issues that tends to crop up is, at least in Pyro, there seems to be a lot of server error issues. So CIG's still collecting a lot of that data and still processing that. But overall, things seem to be okay. There's still some client crashes here and there, and you'll see that throughout this video as well. But for the most part, things seem to be okay, but not in a state that I would say is fit to start allowing more players to jump in quite just yet. While things are relatively stable, you'll notice in this video that things still need to be ironed out, and a lot of that is not even just stability, it's just kind of just making sure things are a little bit more polished before you open the floodgates a little bit more. Now currently the servers are operating at roughly about a 380 player capacity between Stanton and Pyro, which is nice, but even in Wave 1 right now, the numbers don't really ever get maxed out except for when a new patch drops, because you get a huge influx of players who want to come in and actually try out the new update, see if anything is new, see if the performance is a lot better. And generally during that time, you start to see a lot of performance issues. So what are the most common performance issues that we see in the PT right now? Well, it's the stuff that you're used to in live right now. There's still a lot of interaction delays. There's a lot of issues here and there with lag spikes and whatnot. So unfortunately, despite the fact that we have a lot of players spread out over multiple services, it still seems that the servers themselves are still struggling to process a lot of this data. Now, I don't know how much that's going to change by the time this goes live. I'm just relaying what I have experienced going from Evocati and into the Wave 1 PTU, and currently that's how it is right now. Currently, when I recorded this segment of me playing in the PTU, there was literally only just me in Stanton where I was. So there was hardly anybody on this server for whatever reason. It was only just me in this area, so it was very smooth. Obviously, if it's very smooth with low amount of player count, that's a given. Anybody can pretty much accept that, right? But what we're looking for is, how does it behave when the server gets full? For the most part, in my playtests, when the servers are a lot fuller and have a lot more players, it varies. Sometimes it works perfectly fine. Other times, it can be an absolute delay interaction nightmare. Things are slower to respond, things are just kind of laggy or unresponsive in the background, purchasing items are just kind of laggy, stuff that you've probably already seen in live. It's like the same behavior we're used to in live, it just happens to be now in 4.0, and like I said, in some cases, like there'll be a lot of players and it just feels fine. In other cases, for some reason, something happens. There's like a bottleneck somewhere. I don't know exactly what the issue is, but things tend to get a little bit slower as a result. But anyway, beyond the performance issues, so what am I actually doing here, just to give some context? So I bought some diamond at Reclamation and Disposal Orinth on Hurston, and now I'm going to go sell in the Pyro system, and this is just going to be the first part of a very basic loop. So now that I have purchased my cargo, I'm going to go to the Pyro Gateway Station. Now, normally what I would do is I would just immediately take the actual gateway, take the jump point to Pyro. What's nice about the Hull A is it has a decent amount of fuel, so it can get where you need to go pretty easily. However, in this case, I decided to be a little bit more cautious and just get more fuel just in case I felt like I needed if I wanted to alter my trade route. And this is where we actually ran into some of the first problems in this test here. And I'm going to go ahead and cut here and jump the footage a little bit further ahead when I actually get to the station and I land, because I want to show you this first pain point that we actually come across.
Please proceed to assign.
And as you can see on the HUD straight up ahead, this is obviously the new advanced HUD, which is absolutely gorgeous. Now, it's perfect for a combat pilot. Personally, I mean, anybody can really use it. It's fantastic. It's exactly what I would like to see from a HUD from a Star Citizen, because it's straight information, all the most important information centralized in the center. I'm a big DCS pilot, so I love modern jet fighter stuff, so this is exactly how I like it. And this is also excellent for situational awareness, just in general as a pilot. You know, when you're flying a jet fighter in real life, the reason why they centralize a lot of that information is it just makes it easier. You don't have to look around and try to find everything. It's just centralized there. It's just very, very simple. And especially when you're in a combat scenario, it's important to have all that centralized there, because tunnel vision can be a huge factor that can affect your performance. And if your information is centralized, that can limit some of the issues that tunnel vision brings. But anyway, beyond that, right? The advanced HUD may not necessarily be something that will be applicable to everybody. For example, I'm just flying a hauler here. It's not 100% necessary. You can work with just the default HUD perfectly fine. So what I did here is I landed. I noticed that for some reason it said my ship needed repairs. So I refueled, hit repair, and then when it actually repaired my ship despawned. So I was a little bit annoyed here at this point. This is actually a bug I had not seen yet at this point. I was very confused as to why my Hull A needed 300 credits worth of repair. And at this point I was a little bit miffed, so I just said, okay, here's the QR code, CIG. So I go in now and I'm trying to find in my long list of ships here my actual Hull A. There it is. I pull it. Right, again, like, this is the first time I've ever seen this problem. I was very confused as to the fact that I had to repair to begin with. I just took off as a fresh ship. I just loaded up. I thought maybe there was some lag and maybe I bashed the side of my Hull A with one of my diamonds that I had put on the 16 SCU of diamonds. So I was like, okay, I'll just repair it, whatever, I don't care, just do it now. So I did that, and then it just despawned, but you saw there it said it was stored, which was very odd. Then I ran into this really, really bad bug that came out of that, and that is that my cargo is now gone. So I spent, I don't remember how much it was it like 200? I think it was like 200,000 credits worth of diamonds. I think it was around 200,000, I don't remember exactly. And it's gone. It is completely gone. So this is a huge, huge problem. And like I said, this is not something I've ever seen before. I've never had an issue where repairing my ship caused my ship to despawn like that. I've never seen that. I've repaired my ship numerous times at other stations before. I've done tons of combat operations and stuff like that within the PTU. No problems whatsoever. For some reason, it did not like the Hull A here, which is why I brought the QR code, because I do know a lot of Siggies watch my video, so if you're a Siggy, please pass this along, because this is obviously a very huge problem. Now, if you're a Wave 1 tester or an Evocati tester, please let me know in the comments if you've experienced this as well too. Again, like I said, a lot of SIG tends to watch my videos, so if you do run into problems like this and they see that problem in the comments, they know it's a little bit more widespread. My guess is this is probably pretty rare, but nonetheless, it caused me a lot of problems. So what I ended up doing is I gave up on this endeavor here because I wasn't able to claim the ship because it's here. I can't claim it. So I ended up getting a different ship. So let's go ahead and jump to that. So I switched to my Nomad instead and decided to start buying some cargo for that here. I think I picked up, well, I actually don't remember what I picked up, but we'll figure out here shortly. I think I picked up, maybe it was a copper or iron or something here. I'm not entirely certain, but I didn't have my diamonds. I wanted to sell my diamonds, but those were now gone. Festinatite, that's right, that's what I picked up. So interestingly enough, despite the fact that those diamonds were gone, I tried actually buying these 16 SCUs of Hephaestionite and tried putting them back on that hull A, but they would not attach to the grid. So I think what happened was, despite the fact that the ship got despawned, the game just assumed for some strange reason that there were still diamonds attached to it. I tried selling, I tried storing it, but it didn't matter. The game didn't recognize that there was anything on the ship, despite the fact that when I tried to move 16s on them, it wouldn't let me attach it because it still thought there were 16s on it. So those diamonds were on some kind of limbo. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and jump further ahead here towards me loading some smaller cargo. So yeah, first headache here, obviously, like if this was all working perfectly normal, I would have already been on my way to Pyro, but it doesn't always work out that way. I have my frame graph data on the bottom here because what annoys me, for some reason, in both live and in the PT right now, when you are moving cargo in a hangar, it just absolutely just tanks your frame rate. You can see the main thread just spiking up really hard there when I'm moving cargo around. It's not until the cargo goes over the physics grid of something else that that main thread then calms down. So it looks like there's some kind of physics issue going on when you're moving items over the cargo grid, not the cargo grid, but the physics grid of the hangar itself. It just causes just physics calculations to just go completely wild, and it just absolutely destroys your frame rate. So yeah, I just wanted to just show that real quick, just because I know a lot of people have mentioned that before in the past, or I've seen people talk about it, like they see the frame rate absolutely taking a dive. And me personally, I've noticed in live that this happens a lot when you're moving stuff in the actual personal hangars and also public hangars like this. For whatever reason, when you move stuff over the grid using a tractor beam, there just seems to be just these massive physics calculations or something going on there, just some inefficiency that's just causing the frame rates to just take a nosedive. But anyway, we are good here. What's interesting, though, is if I use the actual tractor beam from the ship, I don't see generally those frame rate issues. It's for whatever reason has to do with the hand tractor beam. Seems to be some issues with the physics calculations there. Like I said, it affects live, and it's also still in the PTU currently right now. CIG still have not addressed that problem. But it was relatively painless getting all that aboard, so let's go ahead and sell. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be selling as much here as I had wanted to with the hull A, but it is what it is. The show must go on. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right towards when we're about to actually head to Pyro. And here we are lining up for the jump point. And we are just taking it nice and slow. You can see some players around here. Just in this area, there's a lot more activity because players are coming and going. Though when I was in the Herson area, there was hardly any players there. So the first thing I'm checking here to see is how stable the jump points are. How are things reacting? Is there any polish issues? Are there any game-breaking issues? And so far, the whole process is very, very painless. I end up sitting here just a little bit because I wanted to come to a dead stop, and another player actually below me, I think, opens this jump point, I recall. And yeah, so I was just sitting here. I was just checking my systems, and I was making sure that I was not moving too much. Wanted to wait, and then a player opened the jump point, which meant that I was going to get taken anyway. So I was like, okay, we'll just move on from here. So far, everything is pretty flawless at this point, and I was a little bit miffed because I really wanted to go in my hull A and finish the journey here, but, you know, we just had the Nomad. So now the point's open, we get pulled in. You'll notice here that the music itself does not properly change, so there's a bug currently in this build. The audio is not dynamically changing properly. I think it might change halfway through here. It kind of starts a little bit late, and in some places it actually gets even worse, where the dynamic music doesn't properly play, and then once you exit the jump point, the music for when you're in the jump point then starts to play, and it just loops infinitely, and there's nothing you can do, but you have to close the game and start it over again in order to stop it from looping really horribly over and over and over and over again to the point where it just drives you insane. So yeah, there's still some issues they're working on there. You can even hear, if you listen carefully, there's still a lot of distortion with the audio. They've said they fixed some of the audio sounding distorted, or the music at least sounding distorted when you go through the jump point. For some reason, it's still not fully addressed. There you go. You can hear the dynamic music comes in. It's almost like, whoops, my cue. Okay, I missed my cue. The music, Pedro was on break by accident there, you know, and now he realized he had to get back to work. Of course, all this is just dynamically just the code issues that they have to work on and just polish. None of this is game breaking, but everything here works perfectly fine. One of the coolest things they did in the more recent updates is they shortened the length of the actual jump points. A lot of people in the comments for my jump point videos were like, yeah, it's probably a little too long. I think the old points were about 3 minutes. This one is kind of closer to about 1.5 minutes or so, to about 2 minutes, I think. Yeah, it is a very short trip now, which is good. I mean, if they can make it a lot more fun, then that's great. I don't mind them being like long jump points, but I mean, I love the traversal. The whole thing is just really fun. I enjoy it. And I think a lot of people's feedback saying it's a little too long might just because they're watching it, but when you're actually in it, it doesn't feel that long because you're actively engaged with it. And in fact, actually, a lot of the critiques I see a lot of people have of the jump points is they're like, oh, doesn't seem like you're doing like a whole lot. It just looks really boring and there's not really much going on, but you're actively trying to fly through it, right? And if you're in a smaller ship, for example, like the Nomad there that I'm in, you're actually getting buffeted during the entire time. So you're actually trying to keep the ship stable and on course the entire time. So it's not as simple as it looks. I may make it look a little bit simple in the way I fly it, just because I'm experienced at flying in Star Citizen. It's something I've been doing for a long time. But when you actually get into it, it can actually be a bit of a challenge. And some pilots I've talked to have actually said it's a little bit too challenging for them. So they're probably going to roll in multi-crew ships with other people and have them do it for them. But yeah, so just keep that in mind that what you're watching isn't necessarily the experience that you think it's going to be. It's going to be a lot different when you actually get your hands on it, trust me. But anyway, so now I'm going on to Megumi to go sell this Hephaestionite. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it because it's a bit of a journey. I'm going to cut the cambers here on this part here, or at least cut the footage, and then we're going to go ahead and get to the point where I sell. Alright, so we are now approaching Megumi, which is shrouded in a bunch of dust clouds, so you have to actually get through it, so that's why you're seeing me do some pings through here. The pings are useful for identifying the structures inside. Luckily, there's no asteroids or anything spooky like that to run into. You just need to be able to identify where the actual station actually is. Here we are. I think there's still... It's very well lit here, which is an interesting concept considering that everything is shrouded in a lot of dust. There are some potential lighting issues that I've kind of seen here or there throughout the entire Pyro system. I don't think this is actually a lighting issue. I think this is intentional lighting, but it's very cool. It's very interesting. Just everything is just very well lit. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not entirely certain. We don't exactly know what CIG's final idea they want to go with is, right? Same with like the jump points. You've seen like the earlier versions of the jump points. Oh, also, I didn't mention it here earlier, but yeah, all the hangars are they have like a vis area issue here, so that's why they're invisible. But yeah, they just fly through it and it's fine. There's no issue. But anyway, yeah, lighting issues aside from that, like there's no way to know what the final look is supposed to be like, right? Even when we saw the jump points, I thought those were going to be the finalized versions of the jump points, but CIG just completely keeps doing, iterations on it, and they look fantastic. It looks great, and I'm actually super excited for that. And I'm super excited to see what else they're going to do with a lot of that stuff in the future, especially for jump points in the future that are going to be like jump points you find in the wild. Like, are they going to have different visuals to them? I hope so. It's going to be very cool. So anyway, this is me just going to be offloading cargo here with the tractor beam of the ship. You can see as the hangar closed, the lighting is now not as bright or blown out there. So this is why my assumption is that the actual lighting is probably a little bit bugged. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they adjust that or not. But anyway, I'm going to skip the loading process here and jump to me. Well, I guess if you're interested in me selling it, I'll probably just jump to the part where I'm selling the cargo. Alright, here's me going through the station, and so far it's been relatively painless. There's been no problems up to this point. I select my destination, I select the cargo that I want to sell it off, easy peasy. Now, shortly after this, I was looking through the different elements that I wanted to purchase, and just kind of guessing on what I wanted to pick up here, and then it did server error at one point, I believe. And this is because, for some reason in Pyro, there's a lot more server errors going on there than it is in the Stanton system. Probably because there's more players there in general. I think there's a lot more players just wanting to check out Pyro and play around there. So there's more likelihood of an issue of the servers just kind of crashing out there. But it was a very simple kind of get back up and running here. So you see, I had actually pulled the hull A. I decided to just ditch the Nomad. I just wanted to finish the trip once more with this copper that I decided to pick up and go back to Reclamation and Disposal Orinth and sell and then pick up the diamonds basically and start the loop all over again, hopefully with no despawning ship issues. So throughout this entire journey so far, the biggest issue we ran into was losing a lot of money from the initial hull A just getting despawned and the cargo getting lost in the process there. And I mean, that's really it. There's smaller issues here and there that are mostly polished, but so far, as you guys can see here, it's behaving pretty well. And if it was not behaving as well, generally, like if the servers were performing poorly, all you really have been, or at least I have been noticing, is delay interactions. Just the stuff taking a lot longer to process, and maybe the doors are not opening as fast as they could. But, you know, maybe also get a server error here or there, but really not too much other than that. Seems to be that the game seems to be performing pretty well currently. So it could be maybe by the time you guys watch this video or further down the line this week, maybe we'll get further waves. I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm not CIG. I'm curious as to what their timelines are on this. But anyway, so I go ahead. I got my ship ready to go. I think I start messing with my HUD a little bit, but yeah, and then we go ahead and take off, and we're going to head back to the Stanton system to sell. You can see the lighting get a little bit bugged out here. As soon as the door opens, the lighting spills in, so there's obviously something with the GI in this area. It seems to be a little bit bugged out. But anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and watch myself pull out here. And I didn't really have any routing issues. I think when I've tried this in the past, there's some small routing issues. The thing, it's just be laggy. I think one of my biggest pain points with this patch right now, still currently, is using the star map. And the reason why I say using the star map is because there's just these long delays of loading that goes on when you're opening and closing the star maps, and it's just it really grinds my gears, especially when you're trying to do trading. So like, for example, watch, you'll see I'll set stand gateway, I set it as my route, and then watch what happens when I close the Moby. There's this delay, and then it's normal, and it delays also when you open it too. And that little thing, when you're trying to do cargo hauling and you're constantly going between points over and over, that is like the most migraine-inducing thing in the world. Those delays like that load time for loading up the star map and unloading the star map. And I really hope they work on improving that. Yeah, one thing I didn't talk about, of course, is the new dynamic music. I did mention, of course, the jump gate, but we have, of course, the quantum travel music coming in. It was originally going to be introduced in 3.24. We did have it in one of the PTUs for 3.24. And they took it out, and they decided to bring it back for 4.0. So here it is in its more finalized form. I think most of the music is supposed to line up with the new quantum travel that we are going to be getting very soon. The new quantum travel and quantum boost mechanics. So that's going to be pretty cool. Anyway, I'm going to jump the footage up ahead. I'm going to cut it here, and we're going to go when we get to the actual jump point. And here we are arriving. Again, so far so good. The only other performance issues I've run into this patch has either been client crashes, which have been pretty rare for me at least, but they tend to come at the most inopportune times. And then also there's been these main thread hangs that happen every so often as well too, though in this version for this weekend it seems to be okay. There hasn't been too many client hangs, but I have noticed that the client hangs were a little bit worse in the previous updates. I think they may have gotten a handle on that, hopefully. But the bigger issue I've been noticing here has just been crashes that have been occurring. They're a little bit infrequent, so hopefully CIG is able to identify the issues there and work on it. And you can see the asteroids here, the mined out asteroids and all that all around here. This is all updated now in this recent update. In the previous update that we played, the previous build, there was a problem where some of these asteroids were actually near the exits of some of the jump points, so I even had some times where I came out of the jump point coming towards Pyro and ended up splatting into some of the rocks here. Luckily, they fixed it. They cleaned out the exit point, so there isn't anything in the way that you could run into. So that is always good, because it is irritating when you're like, yeah, cool, going through the jump point. This is great. I got all this cargo. Never mind, I'm dead. Nobody likes that. That is not fun whatsoever. So here is on the approach. Again, I am currently, when I test this stuff, I try to look for, is there any hiccups, frame issues, or anything like that? Here or there's probably some small issues, but for the most part, everything seems to be behaving, although the frame rate is not as where I'd like it to be honest, personally, but I am in the Hull A. It is pretty notorious for having pretty bad frame rates in first person within the Hull A. But anyway, I start setting myself up here for the jump. There's a player that's just kind of hanging out and just chilling. Maybe they don't know how to activate the jump point. That is a common thing you'll see with a lot of players. They're not 100% certain how to activate the jump point, because once I activate the jump point here and take off, he gets pulled. So I think they didn't actually know how to actually activate their jump drive and open the gate and set themselves free, essentially. So lining it up, everything here is working perfectly fine so far. the music itself finally actually is realizing, oh yeah, okay, I got to play my part here. So now we're getting the intro. I'll let this play out a little bit, and I'll shut up so you guys can hear it. Turn your volumes up because this is gonna be really good. That never gets old. I have done the jump points tons of times over and over and over again, both when they were long and when they were short, and it is always super fun every time I go through it. It's probably one of the coolest things, and for folks, if you have not actually tried 4.0 yet because you are either not Wave 1 or you're just going to wait till it goes live, trust me, it is going to be the coolest thing for you to ever try out. It is so much fun. It is really cool. It's probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in gaming. Especially the first time I tried it, it was just like my mind was absolutely blown away when I tried it. So yeah, can't wait for this to go live. I want more people to try this out. Anyway, so I lined up for Hurston and my game crashes. When I finally get back into game, unfortunately, I found out that I died. Yeah, apparently I guess I was just continuing forward and I crashed into something. And you can see me lift my head up here. I was like, so yeah, that is annoying, right? Like that is something that costs players a lot of money. I hate the fact that if you're decoupled and you crash the desktop, your ship just continues. Like it should be that you don't just continue forward. It should be that your ship automatically reverts to coupled and tries to come to a stop. That would probably be the smartest thing that any game realistically could do. Because if you crash your desktop and your ship just keeps careening forward in the direction it was going, and then it causes it to explode, that is a great way for somebody to rage quit the game. I mean, I'm used to this kind of stuff. I've been playing this game for many years, but like any new player, this is a great way to lose new players, right? Nobody likes to experience this kind of stuff. But anyway, I reviewed the footage and I noted where my TVI was kind of located right before I crashed, and I noted it was kind of almost pointed towards this tower here in the center. So I figured maybe I just kept going because there was no more inputs at that point when the game crashed. So it probably just kept going and crashed into the top of the tower. But no, I spent a solid 15, almost 20 minutes here trying to look for my cargo. I even went out to the asteroid fields to try to find my cargo. I couldn't find it anywhere. Obviously, there's no death markers for where I was last. Probably because the game crashed, for one. And two, I died in an armistice zone, it would seem, because I also had my armor back. I don't know if you can see, but my hands down there, I have the same armor that I was wearing, because I think what happened is I died in this armistice zone, and because I died in an armistice zone and I respawned, it keeps your gear on you, and you just go back to your inventory and pick it up, which means, theoretically, my stuff should be here, but it wasn't. My ship was, the corpse of my ship was not around here, my cargo was not around here, it was just gone, and I tried searching high and low, I could not find it. There's no marker to identify where I potentially died. So yeah, all that cargo was gone. So at this point, I was just like, you know what, I'm done. Goodbye, thank you. I think I've had enough testing for one day. So there you have it, folks. That is me going through the PTU, trying to do a simple cargo mission gameplay loop kind of thing. And kind of gives you an idea of where the state of the game is currently right now for 4.0, what they need to work on. As you can see, for the most part, seems to be all right. However, there's a lot of annoying pain points, and some of that can be pretty expensive for players in terms of losing cargo and losing credits and just losing ships and just dying in general. It's just not fun. So they need to work on those. I've done, like I said, in previous builds, I have done cargo runs before, and I've had flawless, no issues whatsoever. Just complete, the trading was perfectly fine. In this case, though, I ran into a lot of problems with crashing to desktop, with my ship despawning, right? And even then, it was not as much as I had seen in the past. So it was not as painful, but we had seen it a lot cleaner before. And as you can see, the servers are okay. There's no real issues here. I only ran into one server error, and that was in Pyro, and that was it. Alright, folks, that's it for me today, showing you kind of the state of Pyro and the state of 4.0, where it is at, where it's going to be going, where things are going, and how things are going to be headed for when the actual build goes live. So I know, like I said, a lot of questions I get is, when is this build going to go live? And I think the reality is, if they're trying to get it out before winter break, probably realistically, they may open up the waves this coming week. Maybe. We'll see. If I wanted to be a little bit more pessimistic or realistic, as some people would say, I think they're probably going to keep it in the PTU over this month and then not have it go live until late January, maybe February. That is probably realistically where they could have it. But I mean, for me right now, it's stable. But when they go to Wave 2 and Wave 3, inevitably things are going to fall apart because of the higher player count. And then, and obviously CIG does not want a 318 situation. They don't want the game to be completely unplayable for months on end, right? So they're going to want to try to take their time on this. And personally, I'm okay with it. I would like them to get it out this month, but if it means rushing out something that is extremely shoddy and has issues like you saw here that are just plaguing it, I'd probably not going to be okay with that. And I think new players checking it out and returning players are also not going to be okay with it. So if they're going to take their time and try to really hammer out the problems and try to really be on top of a lot of the issues that you see here and what we've seen in the past, then I think I'm all for it. I'm sure you guys are as well too. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. When do you think they're going to go live with 4.0? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, if you did indeed enjoy this video, please leave a like, as it really does help out the channel. And of course, if you want to watch more videos like this and much more down the line, be sure to subscribe as well, and consider becoming a channel member like these fine folks here who help make this type of content possible with their generous contributions. But until next time, fly safe, keep those thrusters hot, and I'll see you all in the black.